Hey, okay, I think it's still starting. Okay, hey y'all, we are live on the 5 tips on having better working relationships with your coworkers and employees. So, I am in this video, I will basically share with you how you can have better relationships with your employees and coworkers because we spend about a third of our life at work, and some people, if not more, some people their purpose, their work is their purpose, so it's filled with every instance in every instance of their day. So it's really important because we spend so much time around these people, and I feel like just like family, your working relationships really can get under your skin, but at the same time your working relationships are a very big opportunity for you to grow spiritually and to learn your lessons, just like family. And especially with working relationships, it's not easy for you to just be able to just end it like a friendship or a romantic relationship. So how can we have better working relationships in these situations or experiences in life that are out of our control? So that is what we're going to talk about in this video. I'm so excited. And so let's get into it. So, 5 tips on having better working relationships with your employees and coworkers. And that is the first two: feed your mind with thoughts of God. So, what does that mean? That is, also, if you want individual support with this, just please type in support in the comment sections below. So, feed your mind with thoughts of God. So, what does that mean? Whatever your spiritual discipline or belief or practice is, do that. Do more of that because it is going to prepare yourself for these situations at work where so many different things can happen. Like, someone lies. Like, for example, I work in customer service. So, someone can lie on my boss or lie on me, and it can cause either your coworker or your employee to feel some type of way about you because something a customer had said. So that's just one instance where something can be very triggering, or your employee is not doing something that you asked them to do, or they were running late to work, or they called off, or when you brought something up to them, they didn't receive it well. So, all of these things are situations where you have to be prepared because you can't really see how things are going to happen, or you can't know how things are going to happen. So just feed your mind with thoughts of God. That is going to help you be reminded of how to act in life. I always say, as soon as I wake up, God, please take control of my thoughts and actions for today. So immediately when I wake up, I put God at the forefront of my mind, because one thing God will not do is just impose itself onto you. It will not just start coming in without your permission and start guiding your life, because some people really don't want that at the moment. So you have to invite God into your life. So feed your mind with thoughts of God. So if that is doing your reading, doing your journaling, meditating, listening to a song, listening to like a sermon or a YouTube video, remind yourself of what is your purpose. How can you act more in alignment with God and serve God? And remind yourself throughout the day. That is a big thing that I do. So if it is reminding myself, God, please take control. I usually don't say, God, please take control of my thoughts and actions for the day, throughout the day, but I'll bring like my spiritual text that I would read like on my break, or I would listen to a YouTube video or listen to a song or do something that reminds me of God throughout the day. All right, so that is the first one. Feed your mind with thoughts of God. And the second thing is to spend more time filling your cup. So what do I mean by that? Like, that can be self-explanatory, but that may also mean look like holding boundaries, having boundaries, and spending more time away from work. So I do that as well. I spend a lot of time, when I am off. I try to be off. I don't try to come into work. And if I know that I am, you know, not feeling well, then let's say I did say I was going to come. So, for example, recently I said that I was going to go to a beach yoga event. But my boss, she ended up wanting to have a leadership training. So the beach yoga event was Saturday. She wanted to have a leadership training I thought was Monday, but it ended up getting pushed to Wednesday. Now, I knew that I was going to have to be as spiritually prepared for this meeting, not because my boss or anything is bad or anything. It's just, it was going to be a 5-hour meeting with me and my two higher ups. So I wanted to make sure that I was centered, that I was grounded, and I know that the meeting was going to have a lot of dense information. So I didn't want to leave the meeting feeling winded or super fatigued. So I made sure that I poured into myself and did the thing. So I told myself I was going to be going to the beach yoga event. And then when I found out that the meeting was that Monday, now I'm off on Fridays and Saturdays. So Saturday was technically my off day, but I chose not to be at work. I did not want to be around work people that day, knowing that I was going to have a 5-hour dense meeting with my two higher ups on Monday. Now, if it was just a regular working day, then that's different. But knowing that I had something that was going to be more intense and more intimate and involved, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take my time away from this yoga class today, and so that I can, be prepared for the meeting on that Monday. So that's just an example. So spend some time away from work. When you're off, be off. Don't start filling yourself with other things to do at work, or stopping into work, or whatever the case is, or picking up shifts, which is all part of people pleasing. And that is really hard as we go throughout the spiritual journey. We feel that yes, we should be more friendly, nicer, things like that, and we end up getting into a habit of people pleasing a lot. So sometimes you're gonna have to say no. We talked about this on the last live of just saying no means that you may ruffle some people's feathers, but if that is going to allow you to be able to show up better, then they can't really be mad at that. And that's the benefit of this, to have better working relationships, so that you don't have to feel like you have to leave jobs and go to another job. I hear a lot of people talk about how I should just switch jobs, I should just work here, I should just do this, when if you go to the next job, it's just going to be the same thing. The lesson that you have to learn is the lesson that you have to learn. So switching jobs is not going to take the lesson away. The same as ending a relationship, if you did not take the time to work on the things that you needed to work on, or ending the relationship to get into another relationship, the same lessons is going to be there. So I hope that you guys can leave knowing that the same thing applies with jobs. So you moving from job to job is not going to help. Doing actually these things has really helped me stay in jobs much longer, stay in positions much longer, feel purposeful, and have healthy relationships. And not, when I leave the position, it is this sense of animosity and tension. So, because it doesn't have to be like that. Anytime transitions happen, that if they are truly of God and of spirit, it will be a win-win for all situations involved. If there is any time where you're winning and someone is losing, or you're abundant and someone is lacking in whatever transition or relation, it is not of God. It is not of spirit. So I feel like after you feed your mind with thoughts of God and spend more time filling your cup, meaning, having your boundaries, implementing your boundaries, spending more time away from work, and spend more time doing things that you enjoy doing. If that means just watching TV. Fun. I was reading something recently that said a lot of people thought that success, or this woman was sharing her post or her insight or whatever, and she said a lot of people feel like success is being married, having children, being in a white picket fence kind of relationship. She said that wasn't success for her, was doing what she wanted to do. And I fully believe that. Not to negate on people that, getting married, having children, because that's kind of part of my success story too. Haha. But at the same time, I still feel successful and feel having fun. I still love my life, and that may not be doing what other people do. So, for example, filling my cup yesterday. It wasn't because it was Self Care Sunday. It's just filling my cup, and that was. I decided not to go to the Hyde Park Fest. I did want to go to the Hyde Park Fest, but I had an eventful weekend. So by the time it got to Sunday, and I teach 3 classes Sunday morning, I did not feel like being around people. I just didn't. And even though I'm like, dang, I'm watching everybody's stories and stuff and seeing them at the Hyde Park Fest, and I'm like, dang, that look like that would have been so fun. But then I think like, I ain't even got the energy to go. And I feel like a lot of the times we push ourselves to do things when our body is telling us no. I really feel like the body requires more rest than we give it. We are pushing our bodies to do things that it does not have the bandwidth to do for the sake of keeping our word. And not saying that, you shouldn't keep your word, but if your body is giving you a signal, we cannot control the future. So if we say we're going to do something and it's not business involved, it's just, to have fun, then choose not to do it if something ends up coming up. So I chose to rest yesterday. Like, I just watched some TV. I taught my 3 classes. And that was really it. That was fun to me, and I relaxed on my couch and I did reading and stuff. Like, for that was fun to me. So do what fills your cup, no matter how big or small it is. If that is just laying down, binge watching a show and eating your chocolate or popcorn or whatever, do that. And I feel like everything else, all the other 3 tips, and I got a bonus. All the other 3 tips after this will fall into place right after that. So the third tip on having better working relationships is to forgive yourself for the times where you fell short. So this was very, very big for me because I had an experience when I was getting a new boss. I was getting a new general manager, and the general manager that I had been working with, had left, and I did not really take that transition too well. And so when the new general manager came on, there was friction, I would say that. And I expressed that. And when I look back on it, I didn't like how I expressed myself. But I was going through this whole transition and things, not to justify it. But after all of that, I knew better. And I'm like, dang, how did I let that situation get me so riled up? Like, so I was like really getting down on myself about that. And when we guilt ourselves for doing something, many times we end up blaming the situation to kind of justify why we did what we did. So, for example, when I expressed myself and I allowed that situation to get under my skin. Afterwards, I was like, I don't want to be around that person. I don't want to be around that general manager. I don't want to go to work, So now it is creating this sense of like dread in my life because I feel like I cannot keep myself grounded and in control when around this person. This person irks my nerves so much so that I don't want to go to work. I don't like being at work, But now when you think about that, you are becoming a slave to someone else's behavior. So depending on their behavior determines how you feel. That's not a great place to be in. And so I also thought that I was never going to be able to have a good relationship with this person. I just never thought I would. So But now we actually do have a good working relationship, and here I am sharing that with you guys. And the first thing I started to do was to forgive myself for the times where I fell short. Instead of blaming that, a lot of the times what the ego wants us to do is not to admit where we fell short and to hold ourselves accountable, and not just like, I was wrong, I shouldn't have did that, but knowing that, okay, what am I doing that is not allowing me to be strong enough to handle the situations and experiences that come up in my life? What am I not doing? I am not feeding my mind with thoughts of God. I am not doing my spiritual practices the way that I know I need to be doing. I am not that. I am not, spending my time filling my cup. I am not doing things like that. I am getting off of work and I'm thinking about work. I'm not allowing myself to let go of work. So then by the time I get to work, I'm already in a weakened state. I'm already like kind of just tired and don't want to be there. And then when something pops off, I'm like, boom, I'm ready to pop off. So forgive yourself for the times you fell short. Hold yourself accountable. Be like, I need to do these things to make sure that I prepare myself to be in this, to handle these experiences, and let that go. Because when you don't forgive yourself, you are making a justification for why you did what you did, meaning that it's still something else outside of you that has control, and why you're getting mad. So now if I'm saying every time I come to work, is this person, is this person, is this person, in my mind it is this person. So therefore I cannot see them as God would have me see them. I cannot. I'm seeing them through the lens of the ego. They're a problem. They needs to be removed in order for me to get back to where I need to be. But that is not true. And very rarely can we really do stuff like that. And if so, if they got removed, if you left the job, now you're back in that lesson. You're still in that lesson. So yes, once you can hold yourself accountable, like, you know what, Ari, you got to do this and this in order to even prepare yourself to be in a place where you can see this person lovingly and not get triggered by this person. Why are you getting triggered? Why are these things happening? What is coming up? What is this person mirroring to you? All these things. If I cannot put myself in that position because I'm so clouded by my thoughts of the ego and feeling as I'm so clouded in my thoughts. I hope that this is still going. I'm so clouded in my thoughts of ego that I can't even see the whole, what role am I playing? How can I prepare myself? What is this person mirroring to me? Like, it's a veil. It's a veil over it. So once you can lift that veil of judgment and projection on the other person, you can now be like, okay, what can I do? What is this person mirroring to me? And go from there. Because many times the things that they are mirroring to you are things that you're probably doing to other people. May not be to that extent, but you're doing it. All right. And may not be in that form, but you're still doing it in some other sense. So the fourth tip in having better working relationships with your employees and coworkers is be gentle in your interactions with others, because they are already not being gentle with themselves. So this was a big one. This is one that I feel like really helps me. And that's why I said feed your mind with thoughts of God and spend more time filling your cup. If you do those two things, everything else will naturally fall after that. Because if you are feeding your mind with thoughts of God and filling your cup, then you will inevitably be able to be gentle with other people and their interactions. So a story that happened before I was at work, one of my employees, I was off of work actually, and this was a time where I was, delegating something to her because I was not able to do that. One, I was not able to do it, and two, I was not at work. So this is the have boundaries. I do not do work stuff outside of work, but this task actually needed to get done. And technically, I am still doing work by even having to delegate it to somebody else, but that's neither here nor there. That's small stuff, okay? So I asked my coworker to basically do something that was very simple. I knew it was simple. I asked her to look up something, and she just didn't want to look it up for whatever reason, whatever is going on. So it created this ripple effect later on where she felt as though I didn't want to do my job, and she felt like that wasn't her job to do, and why couldn't I do it? And she felt like even though I was not at work, that I was still buy a computer and I could have still did it. And to this day, I'm not mad at that woman. I think that I don't know what was going on, but I do think that she had a lot going on at the moment. She's a beautiful woman, has a beautiful spirit. And for whatever reason, that was that moment where two moments where there was friction, and that tends to happen. Like, people have bad days, people go through things, people are gonna project onto you and guilt onto you. Just hold that space for them. And even though it's like, oh, they're getting over on us or whatever the case is, we signed up for this not to be a doormat, but we signed up to be light workers. We signed up to be the example. We signed up to hold space for other people. I didn't become a yoga instructor to make money. I became a yoga instructor to work on being a better person. I'm not gonna say that I'm on this level, but think about Jesus. They was up in there beating this man. Not once did he turn around and smack them. Like, so I'm not on that level, but if we are moving towards, this godly nature, we have to be able to take these small steps. And that is being gentle in your interactions. That doesn't mean that you take back what you said because you're people pleasing. That doesn't mean that you just step up and do it. That doesn't mean that. That means that you try to understand where the person is coming from. So when I was at work, I asked her, what happened? Where was there a disconnect where you felt like you wasn't able to do what I was asking you to do? She said she didn't understand how to do it. So we walked over. I asked her to, walk me through it, just so we can see, like, okay, if this is something that was a training thing, let's take this moment and figure it out at this moment. And after so long, I think that she ended up being upset and kind of ignoring me, and I ended up just being more gentle with her, like not judging her for it, not blaming her for it. I asked my boss, like, okay, well, if we're in these situations, what can I do in these situations to enable me to show up better? I told my boss this is how it unfolded, and brought all of us together so that we can talk about how to be better. Not in the sense, and it also determines on how you're telling the story. So if you're telling the story from the sense of I am the victim, then of course it's gonna feel like to the other person that they're the victimizer, you're the victim. But if you're telling the story like, hey, we're both experiencing this, how can we both navigate this situation in the future where we don't have to experience this friction, so that we all have understanding, so that when that time happens again or something similar, when I'm performing my role or whatever, it's not seen as she's not doing her job because we already talked about this. And then there was another experience. I don't even have to go into the whole experience, but and then later on, the first girl we ended up having a better relationship. We was able to let that stuff go. Like, a lot of the times things drag on because we're not able to be gentle with people. So yes, maybe at the time there's going to be friction, but if you be gentle with someone enough, after so long, it's just going to fall away. You're going to be able to let it go. They're going to be able to let it go, and you guys can move on sustainably. Not we're moving on for the sake of moving on because we don't want to be mad at each other, or because I'm even trying to think about that. Like, there's true healing happening at that moment. And there's another experience, but I don't need to get into how it ended up being healing. Just know that it ended up working out, and we was able to beautifully, harmoniously work together, and you could just tell like it was genuine again. Another experience where with one of my employees, I forgot what I was bringing up to her, and I just remember she was like, if you're offended, and I was like, I'm not offended. I think it was something like she didn't hear. I can't even remember at the moment, but I do remember she said, like, if you're offended, and I think because people are so used to other people being offended when they speak their truth, when they speak their truth. So people have defenses up, and that's why I said, like, people are already not being gentle with themselves. So she's already kind of feeling defensive because of whatever I'm bringing up to her. She was like, well, if you feel offended, and I have to remind her that, and even when you're coming to the situation as gentle as you can come, they still may feel attacked because they're in this state of living their life through this means of people attack people and I have to defend myself. How many people do you know where they feel like they're attacked all the time, even when they're not attacked? So that's not, this is why we're here. This is why we're doing this work. This is why we're light workers, to show people like, I'm not attacking you, even though you're perceiving the situation as you are being attacked. So just reminding people, I am not offended. I'm just asking you this question, or I'm just letting you know that this is what's going on. I'm trying to get understanding here. I actually over communicate. Nothing can go wrong with over communicating, reiterating, reassuring to people that they are doing great, that they are doing what they need to be doing, or probably not if you're expressing it, but that you still care for them. You're still speaking to them in a gentle tone. You're not, playing this victim role. You're just stating things as it is. And we were able to move on from that. So be gentle in your interactions with others because they are already not being gentle with themselves. It is very hard to be gentle with others, though, when you're not feeding your mind with thoughts of God, when you are not spending more time filling your cup. It's very hard to be gentle because you are already weak. You're already at a state where you don't want to give. And what you're doing is you're giving love. You're giving gentleness. So if you are not receiving love and gentleness from God and being able to extend that outwardly, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to do it consistent. So, yeah. And at times we fall short. We go through times where we get distracted. We're not really on our path and we lose it. Go back to forgiving yourself for where you fell short, okay? And then the last tip in having better working relationships is be willing to give more and take less. So I talked about this in a post before on if we approach relationships in the space of what can I give instead of what can I get or take, then we will have better relationships in general. I was watching a YouTube video about this weekend about this exact thing, and y'all, it is challenging even for me because it's next levels. It's next level. My spiritual coach was like, spirituality is not linear, it's spiral. So you do repeat the lesson, but when you come back around to the lesson, you have learned more and you have more to learn, but yet it gets easier and you come back around and you come back to, that's why it's like, it's not about you not experiencing certain lessons. It is not about you repeating a lesson. It is about you being able to learn what you learned from the last time you came across this lesson and applying it to the next lesson, and then now being willing to learn more, because some lessons are so deep within us that we're steady digging out that gunk out. So yeah, you're gonna have to come back to that same lesson or that same moon and dig more out. Once the rest of the stuff healed, dig more out. But yeah, you're getting more healing each time, even though the lesson is coming back around. Things like that. So be willing to give more and take less. That means give more love, give more peace, give more joy, give more of these things and take less. So one thing that really helps me understand this is, one, the ego. Anytime the ego gives, it feels like it's losing something. So the ego does not want to give. But anytime you're giving from God, you are extending it, you are expanding it, you are amplifying it. So if you're giving from God, then you are not losing anything, you are amplifying it. And then two, if you are receiving from God and giving to other people, why do you need anything from outside of you? If you are getting everything you need this way and then you extend it out, why? why would you need to stuff to come this way to you? So this is what we're learning on the journey. And I was reading, and this was a tough pill to swallow, but reciprocity is of the ego. So, and if let's say, well, people just be taking, people can't just do that or whatever. If two people are actually coming into the relationship giving, then there will be no need for this whole idea of reciprocity, right? But let's say a person cannot give. Does that mean, usually when a person cannot give, or they don't have anything to give, or they don't want to give, or they are being very mean or negative or whatever, they need the love. So to hold it from them is not going to help them receive more love, nor is it going to help them inspire themselves to know that love is out there and they can go and find it for themselves. Of course, if they're just taking from you, they're not going to be able to receive love. If they're just taking from you, of course, they're not really connected with their higher power. But if you are coming from your higher power and extending love to them, and it's coming from God, when you give to them, when they receive it, it's going to inspire them to go to God. So everything is working together. There is no need to try to keep things from people. Everything is working together. And then, and as you give, you amplify. So when you take away, if you really sit there and think and you feel it, if you're being honest with yourself, anytime you feel like you were meant to give and then you decide not to, you're actually harming yourself. Because now, not only do they not experience love, you also don't experience the love because you didn't share it. When God, as you share, you amplify. So you eventually, deep down, subconsciously, you will feel guilty for the fact that you did not share something with somebody. And so, and then it will eat up on you, and then you got to forgive yourself. So just give, and don't have no limits or boundaries on that. It will be returned back to you in another way. So the bonus is to have better working relationships with your employees and coworkers is to mind your business and drink your water. So if things are above your pay grade or above your position or title, leave it alone. Mind your business. If someone else is having a conversation or whatever, and that has nothing to do with you, mind your business. A lot of the times in work, we are taking on stuff that are literally not our business, not in our positions. And that doesn't mean that is anything bad to anyone. Just can't be, no one can, they can only respect, they may be upset, but they can only respect you staying in your lane, you doing your job. Now, if that means that you are getting more love and you feel that you have it to give and you are doing more, then fine. But a lot of times we are not coming from a mindset to give love or give in a place where we have it to give. We're already on E and we're people pleasing and we're deciding to do something extra. And then when it doesn't be returned to us, now we're feeling some type of way. So if you are going to do something more than what your job requires you to do, really thoroughly check in with yourself and see if you have the bandwidth to even do that extra. So just mind your business. Don't get into other conversations that does not include you. And for example, I had a time where this didn't cost me it didn't seem like it caused any chaos, but I heard it from God to just stop doing it. So I know how to do handstands. So I was teaching people how to do handstands. So there was this one teacher that was always teaching other people how to do handstands. And I didn't think that the teacher really knew how to do handstands. Well, I know the teacher didn't know how to do handstands. Not saying that they don't. It's not that. It was the fact that what she was actually teaching the people was not the best way. It wasn't gonna get people results. So I always felt the need to come in and be like, saying something about the handstands and saying something about the handstands to her teaching while she's teaching somebody else. I'm not a teacher. That's not my position right now. And so I decided to not do that no more. Like, if she's teaching and somebody else is coming to her for something, let them come to her. That's it. Like, if they wanted my advice, they would have asked me. And so just leave that. Now, maybe if I continue to do that over and over and over again, it probably would have caused tension in the future. But once I heard, like, I already stopped doing that. I stopped doing it. So mind your business. Even when I hear things happening and it may not be as true or the best way, mind my business. Drink my water. So those were the 5 and 1 bonus tip on having better working relationships. I know that was pretty long. I usually give like 3 tips or whatever, but yes, I wanted to be thorough. And once again, this will benefit you because many times we are in these, we spend a third of our life at work, and we are in these positions where we don't have much control over the relations we have in these positions. So this will enable you to show up better at work, be more effective at work, be able to handle conflict in a healthy way at work, because conflict will happen. All these stories I'm telling you is not to want to throw shade on other people or to highlight myself or to say I'm a victim. It's to show that conflict happens. So how can we handle these things so that it does not create more conflict, and so that it can actually be of helpfulness to both parties involved. And so you can have better working relationships. So you can leave work and not feel down, feel purposeful, be able to implement these things in other relationships that you have. And so that's, if you do these things, this will be of benefit. And then if you want more individual support on having better working relationships, type support in the comment section below, and we can chit chat and see what we can do together. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know any questions that you may have, any insights that you have, and I'll talk to you next week.